Welcome to Mike's Motorworks, and we are back in the shop today, and we're going to put John's LS-powered S-10. We got to come up with a name for this thing.
Yeah.
Before too long. Maybe the inspiration will hit us by the time all is said and done. So check out to see what's going on. All right, John, so we're in the shop. We're back. And the reason we're fixing to get this thing open is we had a little incident when you took it racing. You can see that video on the YouTube channel. So yeah, you can go back and listen to see what happened. But what's our objective now that we have it in the garage and you got your S-10, or not, sorry, S-10, your Blazer is getting its final touches. So what is our objective here in the next few bits?
Well, what we're planning on doing is pulling the motor, getting it torn down to find out exactly what it is. We do know we did lose oil because we did have to put quite a bit of oil in it. So don't know if it spun a bearing or lost a wrist pin, but we're got to tear it down to find out.
All right, so you don't think a rod is actually blown through the side though?
No, the block is still in good shape, so that tells me it didn't throw a rod. It does run, it does accelerate, so it's very unlikely that it actually threw a rod.
Okay, so are you still getting compression there? Are you still getting ignition on that
Yes, I'm
cylinder?
still getting fire there. It's still getting compression.
Okay.
It's not as strong as what it could be if a bearing is spun. Then you'd still be able to drive it. You still have compression. It just won't be as clean.
Exactly. You can hear that knocking as it's running at idle, so
Yes.
on and so forth. So that's what we're going to do. What else do you plan on doing now that it's having a few down moments, and maybe by the end of the episode, what are some of the things that we should expect to see?
Well, what we are intending on doing on this one is going big with it. It's still going to be a street legal. But I will really want to kind of push this thing to its limits, make it basically drag ready, where if I want to take it to the track, I can. If I want to take it to a road course, I can. But we're intent right now is to go blown.
Oh, wow. So you're thinking about going full-blown custom on this thing? Wow.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing the low-profile root style Charger out of the Corvettes and the Camaros.
Huh.
Edelbrock makes a low profile, so it'd be a real nice sleeper.
So are you telling me that by the end of the next week we'll have a blower on this thing?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that takes time. But it's a long-term event. If we can get the motor torn down, get the interior yanked out, and get the appropriate roll cages and kind of beef up the suspension, is going to be a long, ongoing process. But that's what right now the intent is.
Okay, so what you're saying then is that you kind of revision what you're wanting for the project car,
Yep.
and your intent is to make it bigger and more, well, fun to drive on the road and the strip.
Sure. Yeah.
But your initial thing this time around, while it's in the shop this session, is to check out the motor. And you said something about cleaning some of the wiring and some of the other stuff. That
we're gonna reroute the wiring, put it back to its factory location, and that way I can kind of clean it up, do some other cleaning under the hood, and make it look right. Possibly even push it to show quality.
Oh wow, that'd be fun to do.
So
cool deal. So just basically it's getting a rework and a facelift in the front, and hopefully we'll be able to document it and see what's going on. So hopefully by the end of this episode we should at least know what's going on with the engine itself, and we'll take it from there. And as far as filming, John's already okayed for me to film just whatever, and we'll get the important stuff and update you with things, how they're going. We're not going to do really a how-to on this. We're just going to kind of keep you updated on what's going on with the truck itself. It's one of our projects.
that's it.
All righty, check it out. sometimes when you're dealing with custom applications, you might have to make some custom modifications. That depends on if you're buying a vehicle and it had some custom work done, or if you had like custom exhaust work as was done here underneath our S-10. So, John, I noticed that your exhaust pipes are in your way from dropping your transmission. That's one of our first steps today. So you had to cut up here? Why?
Yeah, the reason why is this is all-in-one weld-in place. So what we're going to have to do is we had to cut the exhaust. That way we can actually drop part of the exhaust down to get the transmission out of the way, because the driver's side bank is running right underneath of the back side of the transmission. So there's not quite enough room to drop the transmission with the exhaust in the way.
All right, that makes sense. So what are you going to do? And if somebody's watching this going, oh my goodness, that sounds really scary, we have to cut the exhaust. What would an exhaust shop do in this case? Or what will you do as the home hot rodder to take care of this?
There's 2 to 3 different ways you can do it. One is a 2-bolt flange, where you get 2 flanges and put an exhaust gasket in between. And basically you're going to weld in the flanges. 2, you can weld it just like it is, where it sits flush and just completely weld all the way around. So, but if you're going to be constantly pulling a transmission, it's best to put the flange setup in place of it.
Well, that makes sense here. So what they'll basically do then is they'll take a single flange here, right?
Yeah.
Single flange on this side.
Yeah.
Essentially bolt them up, weld them together, and then put the exhaust gasket between the two.
Yeah, to
All
stop
right,
any leaks.
that makes sense. So they'll line it up. And this makes sense because chances are if you're going to be racing this thing on a regular basis, this is probably not the first time the engine transmission will come out.
Right.
All right, well, that makes absolute perfect sense. So cool, there you go. So what do you do when you get a custom application? That's a quick little tip for you. So the afternoon is coming to a close here, and at this point we have the transmission out, the intake out, and John found a couple things, but we're not quite sure exactly what they all mean. John, what have you found so far?
Well, we definitely got a leak in the rear main seal. It looks like because it's of the original crank, it does have a little spot in there that could cause it to leak there. That is the original setup, except for the rear main seal itself. So it could have gotten nicked going in. It's hard to say. This project was originally a budget build, so I didn't do anything except for replacing just that seal. So I didn't clean the crank or anything like that, so it could have been caused by that.
Okay, but we still don't have a definitive answer, and we won't have that until we get the motor out and torn down,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All right, so hopefully we'll be able to show you that next and see what goes from there. But so far it's been an interesting day, just getting everything kind of disassembled and just kind of taking things just slowly at a time and getting the next stages planned. All right, check out, see what happens next. Now, go ahead and put that back in there, and I want to get it on film coming back out.
Yeah.
So we had a chance to go ahead and pull the motor, and you saw some of the footage of us examining. John, tell them what happened.
Well, we actually spun number 8 bearing, which was due to lack of oil or lack of oil pressure. We do know that the rear main seal was leaking, so what could have happened is just ran low on oil and caused it to spin a bearing.
Alrighty, so that's just something that was overlooked on race day. You didn't check the
Yeah.
oil out and what have you. Is there any chance that any kind of debris, we saw a lot of debris on the bottom of the oil pan. Was there any chance that that is a consequence of the bearing, or is that just debris that was in the engine?
That was just, I mean, you're going to have some break-in time because those were all new bearings. The rods and mains were all new, so you're going to have a little bit of break-in time. So a lot of that was part of the break-in. But that's all things considering. I wouldn't say that that's definitely the root cause of all that debris would cause that issue.
Okay, fair enough. So just basically we ran on race day, we didn't check the oil out, and
Right.
it caused it to spin that number.
Yeah.
And that happens, you know, even to the best of us. Sometimes we're thinking about so many things with check-ins and so on and so forth. We overlook something important and we forgot to look the lifeblood of the engine itself.
Yeah.
But we're fortunate because it could have been a whole lot worse.
Yeah, and luckily the GM, in my opinion, again the LS is a bulletproof motor, at least that particular one for the bottom ends. And we checked all the other fluids, checked the rear end, checked the transmission, engine coolant. The only thing I neglected to check was the engine oil. So that's on me. But at least we found there's nothing major, just a spun bearing, so we can clean it up.
So now that the engine is in a good state and you're not having to just worry about spending the money to rebuild that thing, what are your next steps with the car? Because we had mentioned a few minutes ago, or a few segments ago, that you were possibly going to clean up the inside of the truck here, make it look a little bit more presentable. But now that you don't have to worry about rebuilding the motor, what's next?
Well, the next step is we're going to go ahead and we're going to get it cleaned up. But we're going to get it all back together, get the intake on, get it drivable, make sure everything else is good. Then we're going to go ahead and go blown.
Holy moly.
Yeah. So
Oh, wow.
We'll take it to the next step and see what happens.
Good deal. And we're still looking for a good name for this vehicle, and I can't think of one. I thought about calling it the S-10, but that doesn't make any sense.
No.
No, so maybe I can get a poll out there and see if somebody's willing to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll give that a shot. So tell you what, in the comments section, right, go ahead and leave a name that you think that we should go with here, right? Leave a couple of them, that's fine, and we'll go through and pick the rest and pick them. And then if we see something that just says, yes, that's the one, we'll go with it. If we see something we're like, ooh, that's a good idea, but maybe we can turn it into this, we might go with that as well. So if you get chosen, we'll give you a shout out on whenever we decide to get the official name. John, is there anything else?
I think that's it.
Cool deal. All right, we'll see you on the next episode.